So usually my responses are non-spoiler, but we're going to do some theorizing, which may constitute minor spoilers for Scream 6. I will only stay with the trailer though, and I think that gives us enough to suggest something is not quite right about this. Apparently the killer is in New York, and I will say, even though I'm not native to New York, yes, it felt very authentic. So the New York scenes do feel like New York. I can personally testify to that. It's probably been shot in Canada, but I think they did a good job with at least some of the locations and at least recreating the New York vibe, because that bodega does look like an actual convenience store. So that was interesting. That said, I'm already having some questions because the trailer overall was really good. It's very excellent. It looks great, and it definitely convinced me to pay for the ticket. However, one of the things with having this in New York was the hope that, well, in New York, good or bad, there are a lot of weapons. There just are access to a lot of weapons, to guns, to crowds. So it should give you a measure of safety. And here they just instantaneously, Ghostface neutralizes the guns and just takes a gun. And you're like, okay, that's kind of disappointing. And then we have the subway scene at the end. And I don't think people realize, if they've not been in New York for a while, it's not just, quote, police who might be on the subway. It's FBI agents. It should be even CIA agents. I mean, New York now, good or bad, has a lot of terrorism going on. So just by accident, Ghostface should be being monitored and surveyed. How's he not getting picked up? So that felt really unrealistic, that all these people are just going to be running around while some serial killing is going on. That just felt a little weird and weak. But in terms of what is being implied, I do think they're going to do some interesting things. So now the mask looks a little worn and a little torn, and they seem to maintain consistency until the subway. But with the subway, it seems all the, quote, Ghostface masks we see are clean. In fact, the final mask is a clean mask. It's not worn. So I'm guessing what they've set up is a master apprentice system where we have two killers, kind of an older master and a younger apprentice. So it's okay if the killer trades in the masks, because we see that scene where we see a ton of costumes with the Ghostface and different masks. So it could be one killer and they just have different preferences. They just put on the old mask and then the new mask. But no, I think what's going to happen is they're going to be switching back and forth between an older and a newer serial killer, and they're just helping one another out. And the older mask is just for kind of sentimental reasons, that they're just using that as a signature to show that Ghostface is back. But beyond that, the question, of course, is who are these new serial killers? What is their agenda? I mean, Scream is old enough. You could believe some serial killer, for whatever reason, becomes obsessed with the Scream mythology, right? There is an internal movie film series, so that could happen. But I think it does strain credibility if we have two killers. So I think they're borrowing a lot from Halloween and Halloween Ends, where we're going to have an apprentice. There's even a lot of borrowing with the mask, because the idea of this old worn mask is obviously from the Halloween trilogy with Blumhouse. So a lot of borrowing. And I'll just say, with Halloween Ends, the way they did it, it didn't work out for me. There were some good aspects in Halloween Ends, but I think the bad aspects far outweigh the good aspects. So hopefully this will be the other way around, where, yeah, we're going to make a couple of big leaps here, like how these serial killers just met one another. They developed a mutual interest in the Scream mythology. That seems a little silly, but okay, it could happen. And finally, I definitely think Gail is dead. They've been killing off the old cast, and I think she's not going to be any exception. I think they're going to wait until the middle of the film, and then she's going to get killed. I do think they did an effective job overall, and I think the implication of two killers is well done. So unless these are all dream sequences, and some of this is real, then yeah, we're dealing with two serial killers. But why are they targeting this group? I'm guessing there is something in the past of one of these characters that we were not told about, that will provide an intersection. Because technically speaking, okay, you can be obsessed with Scream. Why are you going after these people in particular? Is it to gain fame? I don't know. It would seem that there has to be a personal connection. And I would speculate, this is pure speculation, because at one point, someone seems to be speaking to a therapist. I would guess the therapist is going to be one of the killers. But that's just me. So I think we have to look out for that therapist, because this Ghostface, whoever they are, seems to know a lot. They seem to know these people intimately. So how could they have access to that knowledge? I would assume it's going to be the therapist. So I think it's going to be two serial killers for most of the film, but at the very end, we're going to see a third serial killer. And I'm guessing it's going to be someone from the group, and they're not who we think they are. And that is my analysis for Scream 6. I eagerly anticipate this, but I still think they are making some wobbly choices that probably will damage the narrative. I think most of it will be good, but there's probably going to be some few places that feel a little dodgy, and that's where I stand.